Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, कैसे भाई बहनों मैं हूं अनस इस वक्त हम लोग बात करेंगे Nintendo, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I feel like I've defended Nintendo, and I've also like I've also yanked on their nuts too this month so far. Ladies and gentlemen, Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass was one of those things where I laughed at and I thought Nintendo is out of their mind, because frankly, paying about $50 a year to emulate some old ass ROMs is quite honestly questionable. In that video, I even showcased, in fact, around that time, I released a big emulation video where I showcased the beauty of emulation, how you can achieve basically those same results that Nintendo or many companies would want you to pay $50 a year for in some cases, all basically at your own comfort and leisure, and with even better results. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into it, I know there's going to be, but Muda, this is the legal way to play ROMs. And to be honest, you're not wrong in that regard whatsoever. Now, when I initially criticized Nintendo, I said, listen, boys and girls and everyone in between, they have the option to pick between virtual consoles on the Wii, the Wii U, and even the 3DS. And you know what? For everything I would ever say, they were pretty good options. You pay a couple bucks and you own a game basically up until the service is there. This is how I played the original Ocarina of Time on N64. I didn't grow up with an N64. I played it on the Wii Virtual Console, and as far as my experience was considered, it was pretty damn good. Now, in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few people who've finally been able to use this service day one, and boy oh boy, is it kind of a shit show. Now, I want to miss off some misinformation real quick. I want to just write that. I want to nip it in the butthole. I want to go see the misinformation out of there. One of the videos I saw floating around was LMFAO. Even N64 games got the Nintendo Online PowerPoint treatment. Go. Nothing but a quality $50 Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass. In fact, if you watch this video over here, which has about 250,000 views, you can see that it lags like a bitch. Now, something cool that I like about Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass is these N64 ROMs appear to be playable online with your friends. So congratulations, we've got NetPlay, alright? Get excited. But the reason it's lagging, and what people won't really tell you in this situation, and just because there's genuinely a group of people that likes to hate for no reason, and take out context, is this guy is running at 0-bar connection, okay? This is like homeless, alright? I'm stealing Wi-Fi from the neighbor's neighbor, okay, gaming, alright? Of course it's gonna lag! Have you played Modern Warfare with less than a 3-bar connection? It's not fun. Have you played any online game with a crappy latency? It's not fun. Play Siege with bad ping. It's not a good time. However, just underneath it, somebody actually does clear up the misinformation, shows that with a good 4-bar top tier connection, the actual online play isn't actually bad at all. I would like to play this for 5 minutes before clawing my eyes out and switching back to Mario Kart 8 on the Nintendo Switch. I'm just saying what everyone's fucking thinking at this point, alright? Some cases, individuals have called out that the games require a controller pack to save data in certain games, like Mario Kart. Ladies and gentlemen, it's emulation, okay? They're not going to emulate every facet of the game, alright? In some cases, certain features will not work. It's actually pretty evident. If you play original Xbox games on the Xbox One, guess what? Their Xbox Live features don't activate once again. No, you can't play Chaos Theory Online with your homies over Xbox Live because the servers are done and dead. Certain features of games, even through emulation, officially will just not work. Alright, so now that I've cleared up the misinformation, I kind of wanted to talk about the real funny hooplas of this whole situation. One of them was all about Ocarina of Time, one of the best games of all time. Why someone would play the N64 version when there's a perfectly amazing 3DS version that exists is fucking beyond me. I don't get it, I don't claim to understand it, but it is what it is. So here you can see that they actually have some severe input lag. Now, I'm not a huge, aficionado for input lag, but if you watch this, hitting the B button, it takes, maybe half a second to trigger the jump. Now, to understand, I'm not so anal about this. I'm not some fighting game speedrunner or something. For me, input is important, but I'm not really counting the exact milliseconds. This isn't something like Rainbow Six Siege. The way that I theorize is because of the emulation solution that Nintendo is using, and because these games run, believe it or not, at 20-something frames per second, I'm sure that mismatch of frame rate and whatever the console is trying to render natively to the Switch screen screen and the actual TV that you're using will cause a mismatch in input, and this can easily be patched out. But the fucking funny thing about this is how Nintendo has let this happen in a final release product, especially when they're upcharging you on the process of playing ROMs. Like, what? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Are you out of your mind? Like, you pay to get a worse experience than somebody that's pirating. We are in a day and age where somebody can go on RetroArch in 5 minutes and start playing N64 games like Ocarina of Time in ultra wide. Yeah, it's not perfect. Yeah, the game will crash sometimes, but in a lot of cases, we're able to do that. You can even see in a lot of cases, sometimes Link doesn't render properly at all. In fact, when the game lags like this, it's because the emulator is trying to do something that the N64 would have actually straight up crashed on. Finally, it crashed the actual emulator there, but you get the general idea of why these things are getting broken. Whatever emulation solution that Nintendo is using for this exact system is incredibly inferior to the actual public amateur emulators that are existing right there. And this is insane. Look, this exact same situation happened with Sony when they released the PlayStation Classic. Mismatched frame rates, terrible emulation, and until it took actual modders to come in and fix it for Sony, those ways to play classic PlayStation games is just like playing some of these Nintendo Switch games, inferior compared to actual emulation solutions. Who would have thought that AAA gaming, multi-billion-dollar companies, we're giving you inferior patch jobs compared to actual amateurs in the emulation field? So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be playing a game of Where's Waldo, okay? We're going to play Identify the Switch version, all right? It's not that difficult, but you'll figure it out. You'll see where it gets real Silent Hill HD in a minute. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ocarina of Time, apparently the Japanese version, okay? We're standing outside, we're looking at this beautiful misty location with this amazing actual reflection going across in the sea. This is a beautiful situation. You want to fight Dark Link? This is the kind of place you take on Dark Link. Of course, in the next shot, we have the Virtual Console, okay? The Wii Virtual Console. A bit updated, all right? A little sharper in certain ways, but it still stays true to the original. And here we've got what appears to be an absolute abysmal dumpster fire. Now, this is a Japanese version running on Switch Online, as far as I've been able to tell. I can't completely confirm it because I haven't played it myself, but this is the general shot that's been floating around. And if some of the biggest names in emulation are sharing it, I tend to believe it. Okay, I'll put my balls on the line. You can see that the reflections don't work no more. In fact, it just looks like a goddamn texture. The fog is basically missing in this scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what I said Silent Hill 2 HD? All this is missing is some goddamn Comic Sans somewhere hidden, okay? Maybe some, placeholder text, maybe some missing texture written somewhere here would have been just a chef's kiss icing on the cake. Now, to understand, N64 emulation still isn't perfect to this day, all right? Compared to things like Genesis or even Super Nintendo. But even when you're looking at the community-run plugins and emulation out there, it's still leagues better than all of this. In fact, just to really see if the Japanese version was looking like that, I went and looked down this video on YouTube, okay? It was something streamed on July 2021, okay? It's got 230 views, all right? It's by G Slef, and the funny thing is, even if it's 2021, dudes went full 4:3 recording the screen, and I'm glad that they've done that because this to me almost proves that they're running on an actual N64, okay? So the Japanese version, you can tell by the Japanese text, okay? It's right there. Do you see the reflections on the ground? Yeah, I think the emulation just screwed up, man. I don't even think we can call shenanigans. I think it's just bad emulation. I'm just gonna put it out like that, okay? Look, I thought that it was already criminally bad to upcharge people for running ROMs, but now I think Nintendo's just trolling, okay? Like, at this point, not only have they upcharged you, okay, but they've given you inferior ways to play those exact same games. Not only is the list of games very low, and sure, they have some cool features like NetPlay enabled, but ladies and gentlemen, if you're coming across frame rate issues, failing to render certain objects, and downright missing actual effects that pretty much bring proper atmosphere, straight up change the entire look of the game, Nintendo, you need to get your shit together and fix some of this up, man. I mean, I'm having voice cracks talking about this. This is making making me all giddy inside just because of how big of a shit show it actually is. Ladies and gentlemen, Nintendo Switch emulation is kind of a joke, and what's funny here is if you have a hacked Switch right now, like first generation, you could hack it with the little Joy-Con rail on the side. You can actually run RetroArch and a better version of this N64 emulator and get a better goddamn experience. Hell, I've showed it in my videos. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and yeah, Nintendo Switch expansion pack is kind of a lame joke right now. Hopefully in the next week or two, Nintendo may be able to salvage and fix this, but because it's Nintendo, I really have no faith in the game. This is me, Mutahar, and I am out.